Welcome today to the call, and very excited about this subject about becoming an unstoppable salesperson. This is very dear to my heart. This is something I've lived by, and I've been in multiple companies throughout the years, all the way from Yellow Pages, direct mail, internet marketing, and worked with multiple companies. Been around tons of salespeople. I've seen good, the bad, and the ugly. And when you first start getting in sales, you don't realize, you see someone just really performing very well, and you're like, how is that person doing it? And then you see other people not performing very well at all. And when you get down into it, you start to realize there's a little bit more to this process. And throughout the years, I've been able to study not only myself, some of the things that I've done, because I've been a top salesperson in multiple different companies, broken company records, and some of the habits, some of the ways of thinking I had. And I remember trying to talk to others, and they weren't about things, so they would ask, how am I doing it? And they weren't willing to make some changes or adjustments, and they continued performing at the level they were at, where others, came in and performed at different levels. So we're going to come and talk today, and actually this is going to be a subject we're going to be on for a little bit. We're putting this into the university and going over the mental aspect, because a lot of you don't realize it, but 90% of just about everything you do, this doesn't just work for sales. This works for just about, it could be in sports, it could be with other jobs, it can get into so many different areas that 90% of what you do is actually how you think and what you think about. And based upon your thought process is how you're going to perform. So we're going to be breaking that down and getting into it. So becoming an unstoppable salesperson. So let's go through this training here. In this training, we'll be teaching the mental aspects of becoming an unstoppable salesperson. Some people think that they are stuck where they're at with their sales ability. This just isn't true. However, to get out of your selling comfort zone, you're going to have to challenge how you think. We'll be teaching the principles that you can use not only for your sales career, but other areas of your life. These principles of thinking these are being taught around the world by elite top performers. A lot of the stuff you'll find in here is how gold medalists think, how the Navy SEALs think, how FBI, top performers, and salespeople. A lot of these strategies are implemented and thought and used by top performers. I like to read a lot of books, get a lot of information. A lot of this information is coming from multiple sources, but it has to do with people that are the best at their game and how they think. I was actually watching some stuff on Ryan Phelps, took down 10 different things. So he thinks he's got more gold medals than anyone else. And, he has a certain way of thinking, certain way of approaching the sport, and because of it, he became the best of the best. And these are ways of thinking that you can implement. A lot of people don't realize that how they're thinking is affecting them. So the best way to change your performance is to change how you're thinking. So we're going to be getting into this. Success in any form is rarely an accident. In order to reach the next level of success that you desire, you must become mentally strong in your thought process. Too many people spend their time making excuses for why they are not having the success they dreamed of. Instead, they should be focusing on the solutions and proper ways to think to be successful. So one thing about the mind can only think about one thing at a time. You cannot be thinking negatively and positively at the same time. You're either going to think negative or positive. Unstoppable salespeople are convinced and expect to get the sales. Sales performance is 90% mental. However, most people or salespeople pay little attention to what they think before, during, or after the sale. What's interesting about this, a lot of people, they realize that in sports or whatever they're doing, it's 90% mental, but they don't spend hardly any of their time reading or understanding the mental game or training, and therefore, because of it, they don't get the results, but they haven't spent any time really developing the mental game. And they don't realize that everything you do is 90% mental, but it's one of the most underdeveloped area in most people. One thing that's interesting is that 10 things can happen to you in a day, and 8 of them be good, 2 be neutral, and 1 be negative. And most people will meditate on that negative thing. People's brains have been trained to think negatively, and they stay in that negative mode. But when you do, you don't realize that how that's having an effect on you. A lot of the gold medalists, they will not even think a negative thought. They go into their performance, and everything they do is positive. I've won. I got it. And they will not allow people that are negative around them. They will not allow negative thoughts to enter into them. And those are the ones that win the gold medal. And the ones that don't are the ones that don't succeed. I was reading a story from Lanny Basham, and he won a silver medal in the 1972 Olympics for shooting. And he went into the Olympics, and before that, the guy that beat him was actually on the American team, and he was actually shooting better than him before they went into the Olympics. And so he thought, wow, when I get to the Olympics, I'm going to beat this guy. Well, what he didn't realize is that when he got into the Olympics and when the amount of pressure that hit him, he started to shake, his heart started to go up, and in shooting, you have to control your heart rate. He didn't realize how much pressure would be there, and he wasn't prepared mentally. So he ended up losing and not performing like he normally performed, and he actually got a silver medal, and his friend got a gold medal. Well, he was in the Army, and during that time, his goal was to get the gold medal. Well, after that happened, he continued with the shooting career, and things are coming to a close. That they went over to Egypt, and while they're heading to Egypt, they had to fly in a plane, and someone got chosen to be their team captain that he didn't like, and he didn't like the fact that someone else was coming in, and not only that, on the flight over there, he had to sit next to this guy that he didn't even know. Well, when he got in the plane and he sat down next to the guy, he started, so this man started asking him questions about life, and he just started to, basically complaining and talk about all the negative things. And I got the silver medal, and I don't think I'd go to the Olympics again. And so he started saying, oh, well then, so finally after that was over, because it was a long flight, he asked this guy, well, what's your story? And this guy's name is Captain Jack Fellows. And he was in the Navy, and he goes, the reason I got chosen is because I asked the president. He goes, you asked the president? He goes, yeah. How could you, do you know the president of the United States? He goes, yeah. He goes, how do you know the president of the United States? He goes, and how did he allow you to let you have this job? He goes, well, because I spent 6 years in a concentration camp in Vietnam, and I came out. And he goes, what? And his whole attitude changed at that moment. Well, what happened to this guy was he was in a plane, and his plane got shot down, and he got taken captive. And when he landed, he hurt his back, and then he was taken captive by the Viet Cong, and he was stuck into a box. And while in that box, they had his arm behind his back, and he passed out for a couple of days, and they couldn't get him to the camp where they were going to hold all the prisoners. So then what happened is that he was sitting in there, and he got near death. He had no water, and he was going to die of dehydration because they had left him out in the middle of nowhere, because they couldn't carry him because he was so far out and he had injured his back. So at that moment, he was near death, and he said, wow. And he goes, when you get near death, you start really thinking about a lot of stuff. And he said, do I believe in God? Do I believe in heaven or hell? And, he started having thoughts like that. Well, he said he made a decision, and he said, yeah, I do believe in God. And at that moment, it started to rain, and the rain dropped down and flowed in, and he was able to put his mouth out and get some water. And at that moment, he realized, now there must be a purpose for my life. So he stayed in that box for a long time. Finally, they came and got him, would move him little by little by little. And during that time, he started realizing that he started looking at life, and all he had at that moment was his mind. That's all he had. He didn't have outside sources. He didn't have, the pleasures of life, obviously. He was getting beaten, and it was just a terrible, terrible experience there for a while. But he realized, life is not just what happens to you, but how you think about it. And so during that time, he didn't have anything he could do. So what he did is he imagined being on the golf course, and he imagined himself hitting these golf balls, and just, because he liked to play golf. And so for 6 years, he ended up mentally just playing golf in his mind. And he wasn't even a good golfer going into it. But during that time, he learned a lot about his attitude. He learned about attainment. With attainment comes responsibility. He asked the guy, if you got the gold medal, what would you do with it? How would you help people? And so then during that time, he had thought about playing golf, and he improved on his golf game mentally, in his attitude also. So he was visualizing, seeing that he was getting better at golf, and he was and he was keeping a good attitude during that whole time. He looked at it, that God must have a purpose. And we won't go into all the details right now, but I just want to bring up a point out of this. So finally he is released. He's brought back to the States, and on the way back there was a couple things he wanted. He wanted a gold watch, he wanted some ice cream, and he wanted to play golf. Those are the three things he really wanted to do, and obviously see his family also. That was a big deal. To get back to his family, but he said, I couldn't think too much about my family because it made me too depressed. So I tried to keep my mind too much off of that. He tried to keep himself away from thinking about anything that would depress him. So when he was coming back, he got his ice cream, and then when he started flying back more, he was when they were driving, taking him back to the military base, he saw this golf course, and he said, pull over, I've got to play some golf. So he goes in there, and he asks the guy, he's very skinny, he's got no clothes, he hasn't eaten very much in years, and they say, can I help you? He goes, yeah, I'd like to play golf. He goes, well, you can't play golf unless you're a member or you play with a member. And he goes, well, are there any members here? He goes, yeah. So they go out there, and there's four guys there that they actually happen to be four retired Navy not SEALs, but in the Navy, and they said, yeah, we'll help you. They fitted him up. They got him out there. Well, you got to remember, this guy had not played golf in over 6 to 7 years because he was in captivity. All he had done is mentally played golf in his mind, and he perfected it in his mind. Well, when he got out there, he shot a par game. He had never shot a par game ever in his whole life. And they were like amazed, and they said, how did you do this? He goes, I've been playing golf in my mind the whole time. And what's really cool about this story is that you really learn a lot about how he mentally not only had a good attitude, but mentally had perfected a skill set in his mind without even doing it. And then when he actually did it, he knocked it out of the park, and they were amazed. Well, he told this story to Lanny. Lanny took all this information in, and he realized, wow, I need to work on my mental game. So he started working on his mental game and going through the whole process. And out of that, he learned, like, wow, I can get better. Well, he ended up going into the next Olympics in 1976 and actually winning the gold medal. And then went on to win all types of awards, became the top shooter in the world, breaking records. And he attributed it to meeting that guy, to meeting Jack Fellows and learning about that whole mental process. And there are so many mental things he learned about. He ended up starting he wrote a book called With the Winning Mind. He's actually taught these principles to the Navy SEALs, the FBI, tons of gold medalists, top performers. So the stuff I'm talking to you about now comes from people that have actually done it and have a way of thinking, and they have duplicated that thinking over and over again. Lanny taught this to his son, and his son won multiple events at shooting and all that. So, and then another thing too is some of this information is pulled from the guy that trained, was the mental coach for Michael Jordan. So, and he's actually wrote a book called Unstoppable, and that's actually where I got this terminology right there, unstoppable. So I like to read books, put things together. So I have put a lot of this stuff together based upon the best of the best. The people that are actually out there making a difference, that are out there, that are using these principles, and it's just flat out undeniable it works. And you can change, but you have to challenge yourself mentally. So we're going to be going into some of these aspects, and over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be getting in. A couple of the subjects will be the power of rehearsal and direct affirmation, conquering fear, and performing well under pressure. So let's look at the three types of salespeople. There's good salespeople. This is most salespeople. They are careful. They wait to be told what to do. They watch to see what everyone else is doing, and then they follow the leader. They are not a decision maker. They can handle a certain amount of pressure when things are going well. But when things get too intense, they kick the problem over to someone else. They pretty much live in fear and only hope to make enough sales to pay their bills. They can make some sales, but ultimately they don't take responsibility for their sales performance. Great salespeople. This is a smaller percentage of salespeople. They can handle the pressure, and they will get the sales if you put them in the right situation and tell them exactly what to do. They will study all types of sales scenarios so they can anticipate what might happen, but they are uncomfortable when faced with something unexpected. They have an up and down career where some months are better than others, and they are okay with that. An unstoppable salesperson or people. This is an elite salesperson who has mastered their craft. They close deals that everyone else thinks is impossible. They put numbers on the board that astound their competition. They are confident in every sales situation they are placed in and just get the job done. They are always on the leaderboard. They are humble but bold in their ability to be successful. They turn every situation into a positive and have a great time doing what they do. They have an unstoppable career and consistently make a ton of money. The good salesperson has an awesome sales day. A great salesperson has an awesome sales month. An unstoppable salesperson has an awesome career. A good salesperson worries about the competition and how they measure up. A great salesperson studies their competition and makes plans based upon the competition. An unstoppable salesperson makes the competition study them, and they don't care who they are facing. They know they can handle any situation. Good salespeople can't carry a company, but they are the first to slap you on the back when you do a good job. Great salespeople always want the credit for getting their sales and love to be congratulated for what they did. Unstoppable salespeople congratulate others for their sales, but they themselves just move on to the next big sale, not needing praise. They just love doing what they do. Good salespeople get sad if they don't get a sale. Great salespeople get happy if they get a sale. Unstoppable salespeople just close more deals while everyone else is caught up in their emotions. A good salesperson is afraid to ask for a big sale. A great salesperson only asks for the big sale if they know they have a good chance to close it. An unstoppable salesperson trusts their gut and just closes the big deal. A good salesperson gets everyone cranked up and emotional before the sale. A great salesperson gets themselves cranked up and emotional, also gets themselves. So the good salesperson gets everyone else cranked up. The great salesperson gets themselves cranked up. The unstoppable salesperson never gets cranked up or emotional. They stay calm and cool and close the deal. A good salesperson takes no risk. A great salesperson takes risk only when they can prepare in advance and knows the consequences of failing are minimal. An unstoppable salesperson knows they know exactly what to do and nothing feels risky to them. Good salespeople are afraid of the spotlight and usually handle it badly. Great salespeople stand in front because they need to show who's in charge. Unstoppable salespeople don't have to show who's in charge. Everybody already knows they are. Good salespeople let others decide whether they're successful. Great salespeople feel they're successful when they get a sale. Unstoppable salespeople know they are successful no matter what happens. It's just who they are. Good salespeople just do what they have to do to get by. Great salespeople like what they do. Unstoppable salespeople are passionate about what they do. Good salespeople don't think their negative thoughts affect their sales. Great salespeople are not sure if their thoughts are affecting their sales. Unstoppable salespeople will not even give a negative thought a chance to enter into their mind because they know it will hinder or stop the sale. Good salespeople never write down their sales goal. Great salespeople sometimes write down their sales goals. Unstoppable people always write down and accomplish their sales goals. Good salespeople blame others or their environment when a sale doesn't take place. Great salespeople don't know whose fault it was for the sale not taking place. Unstoppable salespeople take extreme ownership and full responsibility for the whole sales process. I went through these scenarios that I want to show you. You might be good or great or unstoppable at this point in your life, in your sales mentality. But these are the different places where people are at. And the goal here is to get you to think like an unstoppable salesperson, but you have to see where you're at. So a lot of what goes into being successful is getting to the place where you see yourself as an unstoppable salesperson. So what we're going to go into here next is conscience, subconscious, self-image, plus performance. I went over all those examples just to show you the importance that the unstoppable salesperson sees himself in a certain way, has a certain self-image about himself. If you're going to be an unstoppable, high-performing salesperson, you need to understand how the conscious mind works with the subconscious mind and your self-image. So let's talk about the conscious mind. Your conscious mind can only think of one thing at a time. With this in mind, it is important to stay focused while you're learning something new. In sales, you have to learn everything there is to know about your company, products, and prices. This goes into your subconscious. Your subconscious mind takes in everything you have learned along with your abilities, and with repetition gets imprinted until you know it by the back of your hand. This is when you no longer have to look at price sheets, product details, or facts about your company. Self-image. Many people don't understand the importance of self-image when it comes to sales or anything you do for that matter. Your self-image is how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as a good salesperson, great salesperson, or an unstoppable sales agent? You can also tie your self-image with your confidence. The stronger self-image you have, the more confident you will be as a sales agent and produce an unstoppable performance. On a side note, having a strong self-image is not to be mistaken for pride. Confidence is a humble approach, but the unstoppable sales agent just knows the product, who they are, and is just more comfortable in the sales setting. Performance. This is how well you actually do. Your performance will show up in how many sales you get or deals you close or how much money you're making. If you want to have an unstoppable sales performance, you must have a focused mind with the well-trained subconscious along with a self-image of you as an unstoppable salesperson. So let me give you an example, and we could come up with a lot of examples. Let's just say you're learning how to type and you've never typed before. Your subconscious has nothing built into it because you have never typed before. Then you start typing. You learn where all the letters are and numbers are while practicing daily. You finally get to where you no longer have to look at the keys because your subconscious kicks in, and now you start typing faster. Then one day your teacher says there is a typing competition coming up to see who can type the fastest with the least amount of errors. You feel you are getting so good, so you sign up. The day of the competition comes with a ton of pressure. The whole school shows up to see who is going to win. The pressure is so great that you have a poor performance because of the pressure. You choke because your self-image is not at a high place of confidence and you really didn't see yourself winning. So what happens during the competition, your low level of confidence keeps you from performing at a peak performance and you come in fourth place, meaning you don't even type as fast as you normally do and you make more errors than you normally do. You're not performing at the right level. You did not like losing, so from this point forward, you set a goal that if you're going to be one of the greatest typists in the school has ever produced. So you keep typing, working on yourself, and you get to where you see yourself as actually being a great typist. A year later, you're still typing, practicing every day, and honing in on your skills. Another competition comes, and you believe you're going to win because your skills are better, you have been training, and you see yourself as an unbeatable typist. This time your skills are not only ready, but you are mentally ready. Competition day comes and you are confident as ever. This time they make a broadcast to multiple schools. They are offering a big prize for first place. And not only does the whole school show up, but parents show up. The stakes are higher. But to you it doesn't even matter because you are confident you can and will and that you have the skills to prove it and you can win. They start the competition, and guess what? You not only win, but you break a school record. From this point on, you are never the same. Your self-image is stronger than ever, and you go to be one of the fastest typists in the world with no mistakes. This all happened because your self-image grew through your daily honing in on your skills and your mental game. I use this example because it is easy to see how it can be applied in any sport, competition, job, sales position. This is the process in which you dominate the competition and become unstoppable. But you have to have all three of those components working together to get an amazing performance. Performs 100%. So let's just look at this again. So for Agora, you learn all the different products, you watch the videos, maybe it's a new product you've never learned about, so you start learning a little bit more about it. You build that into your subconscious mind. Now, if you know a lot about your product and you've built it in, and let's say you know really deep, that doesn't mean you have a great self-image. Your self-image is something you have to work on. You actually have to see yourself as a person that can close those deals. If you don't see yourself as a person that can close those deals, you could know your product by the back of your hand. But your self-image, and this is something a lot of people don't realize, how you talk, how you think about yourself, your positive attitude makes a huge difference in your performance. So let's look at 3 stages of the sales. Part of the mental game. So there's 3 stages to your performance when you're going in and you want to close a deal. And this is true for anything you want to do, sports, sales, competitions, whatever you're looking at doing. So there's 3 stages. One is your anticipation stage. What are you thinking and speaking before the sale? The next is the action stage. What are you thinking and speaking during the sale? The reinforcement stage. What are you thinking and speaking after the sale? All 3 of these are very, very important when it comes to your self-image. So stage 1 is all about anticipation and preparation. It's important during this time to get whatever tools, notes, product samples, or other items needed for your sales presentation. During this time, you have a self-image of closing the sale. You see yourself knocking it out of the park, and you go into the meeting thinking and speaking like you already closed the deal. You can't imagine them not buying from you because your product is great and you're an unstoppable salesperson. Stage 2, when you're in the sales meeting, you're interacting with boldness and confidence. Nothing comes out of your mouth that speaks weakness. You know your stuff, and you are carrying yourself with confidence, knowing you're an unstoppable sales rep with great character. You have your client's best interest in mind, and there is no reason for them to not buy from you. In your mind, you have assumed the sale, and at the right moment, you close the deal or at least ask for the sale. Stage 3. There are a few things that can happen here. However, no matter what came about from the sale, you are always a winner. If the client says yes and buys from you, great. You go back over the meeting and see where you could improve and maybe see where you could have done better or sold more to them. If the client says no and doesn't buy from you, even greater. You now are going to really look over what you said and thought to see how you can improve. This becomes a great learning experience. So you're either closing deals or learning. So either way, you are a winner. This is the difference of great salespeople, people that get gold medalists. They never look at failure. They never see themselves as a failure. If they don't close the deal, they just learn from it. And if you're learning, how could you be losing or be a failure? It's when you give up, you quit, and you stop learning. That's when you become a failure. Either way, you're unstoppable because you are learning. And the more you learn, the better you're going to become at selling. So you're just, either way, if you close a deal, you're going to get, that's great. And if you don't close a deal, that's great. Everything is great because you're learning. A lot of people get negative, though, and they let negative thoughts enter into them, and they don't realize that that affects their self-image. And when their self-image is affected, that they can't perform at a high level. You never let a negative thought hit your mind. If it does come, you shoot it down and you stay happy knowing you're growing as a salesperson. If you can master these 3 stages, you are well on your way to becoming an unstoppable salesperson. Anyone who is striving for mastery will tell you to watch what you think and say. What you think, say, and write down has a high probability of coming to pass. This works both ways, positively and negatively. So let's look here. In these stages, you can imagine someone being mentally weak or negative. Okay, let's go over this. In those stages, can you imagine someone being mentally weak or worse, negative, and think they're actually going to get the sale? They are just hoping they will get the sale. So they go into a meeting. The client sees this as desperate and doesn't like to buy from desperate people, so they say they're not going to buy from you. Now, they don't tell you why. They just picked up on you that you seem desperate. They might have actually liked what you had to offer, but see, the salesperson's lack of confidence, and since the rep wasn't confident and the client couldn't confidently buy from them, then the sales rep gets even more bummed out, and when they go to the next client, the sales agent is depressed and thinks no way they're going to buy, and then the next client says there's no way I'm going to buy from a depressed negative sales agent. Can you see how this just gets worse and worse for the sales agent? Then if they are not examining themselves and getting no sales, they could just start blaming others, the company or the product, and it just goes downhill, 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 and it spirals out of control, blaming others, and they don't realize that it was actually them. In the meantime, you're not getting sales, so your company says, I have to get some more sales rep in here because we need some sales. So they hire someone, and this person studies the products, but they have an unstoppable positive thinking sales mindset. They're hired by the company. They actually go to the same clients you have, and they sell to them, and they start knocking it out of the park. This sales agent stays mentally strong and goes on to break company records and make an amazing living, while negative thinking and speaking agents just sit there wondering how they did it. Well, here's the answer. Take full responsibility of the whole sales process, your thoughts and your speech, and you can start getting the same amazing results. Now, what's interesting, when I did Yellow Pages, I actually saw this happen. They would give us all the same leads, and we would get a whole pack of clients that have actually bought before from them, or maybe bought last year. They gave this one stack to this one person. They couldn't close hardly any of the deals. They didn't upsell. Then I saw this other guy come in, and this guy started knocking it out of the park, breaking records, selling double trucks with the same exact leads, going to the same clients. They went back to some of the clients that said no and got them to buy. So what was the difference? It was the only factor that was different. It wasn't the leads, it wasn't the product, and it wasn't a different product, and it wasn't even a different client. The only factor was the mentality or the skill set of the salesperson that went in there. One salesperson went to the same client, same leads, and couldn't get the sale. Another person went in there and got the sale. So that showed me, when I started seeing that, I realized, wow, how I think, how I operate as a sales agent, it's all on me. It's not the clients. And then when I improve, my sales will improve. When I improve my thinking, my attitude, and all these things, that I will start getting different results. So this is I have seen this in multiple companies, and I've also seen it work for me. I've been able to go in and see this happen, and then I read these books and I see how all these great people, like, right now I really like watching Stephen Curry. That guy, he's got a winning attitude. He practices very hard, and when you go and you study the greats, there's a certain way that they think, and that thinking is something that you can implement in your life, and when you do, you'll start getting the results that they're getting. If you don't like the results of what you're getting, then look at all the steps, where you're at, your self-image, your confidence in the products. I've even seen some people come in that don't know products very well, but they're just so confident as a salesperson, they still go in and close the deals because they have a strong self-image. So it really is important, your self-image. See this right here. Some people could have, I talked about this earlier, about 7 good things happen to them, 2 neutral things, and 1 bad thing. Guess what? They will only think and meditate on negative things that happen and have amnesia about all the good things that happen that day. So it's important as a salesperson to make sure that you force your mind to think positive. If you've never done this and you're in the habit of thinking negatively, it's a lot of work at the beginning. But once you start to do it, you'll start to realize, like, wow, I was in a negative flow, and people pick up on that negative flow. But when you change your thinking and you start thinking positively and you start challenging negative thoughts, you will start getting results everywhere in your life. So the fact of the matter is that being an unstoppable salesperson takes hard mental work. You have to be willing to fight all the negativity in this world and choose to see things differently. Those who do end up becoming great at whatever they do, a parent, sales, performance. They discover the rewards of being mentally tough. Becoming successful at whatever you do and below your competition way while making a ton of money. Here's a few quotes here. We'll go over a couple of them. These are from really popular people that are sales coaches. A sale is not something you pursue. It's what happens to you while you are immersed in serving your customers. So I'm not going to go all through here, but you can read through these. So today we're going to end on this note, and over the next couple weeks, you're not going to want to miss, because we're going to be talking about how to change your self-image. If your self-image is not where you're at, we're going to be talking about the power of rehearsal, self-talk, and direct affirmation, which all shows you how to change your self-image. Because if you can change your self-image and you can see yourself as an incredible salesperson or an unstoppable salesperson, you will start to get different results. You'll start to get the results that all these top performers get. It really is 90% mental. We'll also be going over conquering fear and performing well under pressure. There's and like I said, I really love this stuff. This is very close to my heart. I live by it, and I've seen it in action in my own life with other sales reps, and it's just undeniable. And it's something that can be taught. I've actually worked on my own self-image and got different results. There was times where I didn't like the results I was getting, worked on my self-image and kept working and got different results. So I have personally seen this happen in my own life. I've seen it with others. And then I read all these stories about all these books and other people. And, and the story about Lanny Basham and Jack Fellows, how mentally he was able to go in and he saw himself as being a great person that played golf, although he was not playing golf at all. He was in prison for 6 years, but he mentally, when he first started in the rehearsal in his mind, he had the image of where he was at. He was shooting like 100 or something. He was like an average golf player. But while he was in prison, he just started to change his self-image to seeing himself making and hitting those goals and hitting those putts and then getting it down to par. And so by the time he went in and played golf for the first time in 6 years, he was able, because his self-image had changed, he actually performed at that level, having never played, not even picking up a putt or anything for 6 years. You really can change the way you think. And when you do, your whole life will change. With that, we'll thank you for everyone being on the meetings. You don't want to miss the next couple of weeks. They will be being placed in here. If I were you, I'd go over some of these inspirational quotes. Sales are contingent upon the attitude of the salesperson, not the attitude of the prospect. You go through here. These are great ones from Brian Tracy. There's a lot of different people in here. And remember, all things are possible if you believe.